speak up. Say how you feel, but say it in your voice. And I think people will be really receptive to that, and it will definitely be worth it. Factors that inhibit speaking up are definitely groupthink. You don't want to go against the grain when you know everyone is really excited about a certain idea, and everyone's sold in. You don't want to be the person who always looks really negative and is trying to do the right thing, or the goody two-shoes.
I think what makes it difficult for me to speak up is when I feel like I don't have the platform to speak up.
If someone comes at me with a lot of force and has really thought through what they're saying, and I don't have a response to it, but I still kind of get that icky factor, I can see myself probably making a decision that wasn't smart.
It's always easier to say things we've said before. Think about a speech you may have given, or a class presentation you did. If you practiced it in advance, in front of a mirror, or with friends or family as your audience, you were able to identify the phrases that needed to be rewritten, the passages where you wanted to go slowly for emphasis, the places where you were less sure of yourself and maybe needed to spend a little more time. And if your practice audience provided you with encouragement as well as constructive feedback, that was all the more helpful.
I make notes on what I want to say because that helps me really have a clear message and not be swayed or get off track. I also, call someone, usually my sister, and talk it over with her on how does this sound? Does it sound offensive? Am I being mean? Because I always want to have it come from a really good place.
I think going in blind is a terrible idea from personal experience.
If I'm not confident, there is a very large level of nervousness and kind of almost apprehension that I feel. So if I'm confident, I really do believe I can do anything. So.
If we literally rehearse our responses to values conflicts, we're not only more likely to express ourselves effectively, we're more likely to speak up at all. We've heard ourselves uttering the words. We've found a way of expressing ourselves that feels natural to us. We've considered the best context for the conversation, when, where, with or without others in the room, and so on.
I mean, because I came from the oil and gas industry, and you have those pressures, because people are paying a lot of money for the equipment you're using, so there's a lot of emphasis on getting things done quickly. And in trying to achieve that, you tend to, how would I put this nicely? You tend to cut corners and do things you typically shouldn't do. For example, I worked with a service company that was very strict on procedures. On paper, they were very strict with procedures, but in the field, to get things done, you had to, your managers wouldn't say it, but it was one of those implied things. But it was good until you got caught, and then it became something else. I didn't go directly to the manager because, it was one of those things like just observing the protocols of the environment. It felt like, okay, if you go up to this guy, he will hound you, you will get victimized. So it was, at that point, self-preservation kicked in, and it was just put your head down, get your work done, and when your tour is over, you can leave. If I was in an environment where the regulatory framework actually existed, I probably would have spoken up. Or if the company culture encouraged people to speak up, it would have worked. Because the oil and gas industry, it seems to be, it's a very old, wait your turn type industry. Wisdom comes with age type industry. So it wouldn't have really helped my career if I had spoken up or been the ethical guy.
There are situations when you are intimidated by other people involved in the situation. And it becomes, it really helps if you have already prepared your points, you know what you want to say, and you've practiced about it.
It's also important to remember what we've learned from others who've expressed their views confidently and effectively when it came to ethics. And it's important to remind ourselves that we don't know how our audiences will respond. Don't assume that they are uninterested. We can think about what context will make our audience most comfortable and most likely to listen with an open mind, and frame our perspective in a way that will appeal to the values and perspectives that we share with our audience. Most importantly, practice. You're more likely to say those words that you've pre-scripted for yourself and already heard yourself express.
I develop relationships with people, and that tends to help me when I face ethical dilemmas.
So I think for me, it's just sitting down and going through the different scenarios. So if I said this, what would their position be on that? What questions would they say to challenge me? Or if I said X, Y, and Z, would they agree to that? Is that something that would align with their values?
You want to know who your audience is. You want to know what their perspective is, why they're making that argument, and you want to have a clear idea of whether you will ultimately accept that argument or you will not, and why not.
And assuming positive intent on the other person, because I think that coming in with that attitude just makes the whole conversation a lot healthier and more productive.
The most important thing is to practice, and to practice in front of other people and make sure that the message you're trying to convey is being conveyed in a way that's articulate and clear, and that I'm not driven entirely by emotion, that I'm able to remain steady and confident in the decision I'm making. And I think the more and more you practice, the better that goes.